I come to you today with a kink in my neck. And I know that I am not alone when I talk about dealing sometimes with a stiff neck, a kink neck, I don't know, like a little pull. It just feels like something's off. You wake up and you're like, oh no, is this gonna be bad? And then an hour later, you're like, oh, it might ruin my day. So I can't speak to the cause of it. I'm not sure what you're dealing with. And I'm not sure what will cure you, but I'm going to show you some movements that help me when I'm dealing with some stiffness in my neck. And so you just need about 5 minutes and 2 tennis balls. I like to get these at the dollar store or Canadian Tire. That's where I find them the cheapest. I keep a bunch of them here at the studio. And have a block handy too in case you're dealing with some mobility issues. You want to bring the floor a little bit closer to you. Okay, I'm going to start in a cross-legged position. I'm going to take my glasses off. And all I'm going to do is come into a little forward fold over my hips. And when I come into this forward fold, I'm going to stretch my arms somewhat long. I'm going to soften through my shoulders and see if I can just sort of drop my head. Now, immediately you're going to feel sort of a pull through the hips because this is a hip opener as well, but possibly through the whole sort of back body, starting in your lower back all the way to your mid back. And if you can drop your head up into your neck. So just see how heavy you can be here. Give it a few moments. Check in with your breath too, because oftentimes I find when I'm in any sort of pain, what happens is that I'll hold my breath a little bit higher in my chest. I'm not using the diaphragm to breathe. So what ends up doing a lot of the heavy lifting in my breathing are the muscles in and around my shoulders and my neck. And that just exacerbates the issue. So stay here in this fold. Just start to walk your fingertips over off of the left sort of side of your mat until you feel a little stretch along the lower right part of your back. Now, check in with your head again, head, neck, and shoulders. The shoulders might have creeped up towards your ears. See if you can keep a little bit of space, some distance between your earlobes and the tops of your shoulders. Just take a few deeper breaths, and then we're going to walk this over to the other side. Just very slowly, taking your fingers. So now they're reaching sort of over to the right, just sort of noticing the differences between the sides of your body. What side might be a little tighter, maybe it's a little bit looser. If it helps, when you check in with your head, maybe giving a couple nods and shakes. Take about 2 more deep breaths. See if you can move your belly with your breath. You might even be able to sort of shift around the weight through your sitting bones with your breath. Just feeling everything sort of lift and then come back to the ground. And then walk your fingers back through center very slowly. You're going to keep your head heavy. Start to roll up. Eventually to a tall spine, but take your time. And then eventually stacking. I got a little crack there. Stacking your head tall on top of your spine. And then take your fingers. You're going to walk them over to the right until you feel a little sort of stretch. You might even feel it through your forearm, up through the top of your arm, in through your shoulder and the side of your neck. And you're going to keep that length, but you're going to bend at the elbow. And you're just going to sort of wrap your hand in around the back body. Now the top of my hand is just sort of nestled into the sort of left side of my waist. And you're going to keep this extra length that you've just created. Drop your left ear to your left shoulder. And that might be enough. That might be enough just sort of here. But we're going to play with the angle. So when you feel comfortable with the shape you've created, you are going to do tiny little nods, yes and no. So keep your ear heavy towards your shoulder. Just tiny little nods, yes and no. Very, very, very tiny. So you're changing the angle of your head and introducing a little bit of movement, different movement. I can feel this stretch even up, sort of into the back of my ear. Okay, and then very, very slow, you're going to drop that arm. You're going to drop your head down through center. Okay, we're just going to go to the other side. So take your left fingertips. You're going to reach them out, creating length. I'm going to bring my right hand just into my lap like my left hand was on the first side. You're going to keep that length, bend at the elbow. Bring the top of your hand sort of to the small of your back. And then you're going to drop your right ear to your right shoulder. Get comfortable with the shape. Check in with the breath. And then if you are comfortable enough to move, the movements are so slight. They're just tiny. It's little nods and little shakes. And this might not be the side. You know, this might not be where the kink is or where the stiffness is. And you might want to try a greater range of motion. You can do that. Just take a few more breaths. Okay, last one. Okay, bring both hands into your lap. You're going to drop your head so it's heavy, and chin is really to my chest right now. And then very, very slowly, I'm going to lift it all the way up until I'm a tall spine again. Take a couple breaths into tall spine. We're going to roll down to the mat, but we're going to go really, really slowly. We're going to actually hold a position before we go down. So you can either grab the underside of your thighs or you can grab the fronts of your knees. I think I'm going to grab sort of the underside of my thighs. I'm just going to hook my fingers onto my wrist. You want to get a good grip. Now my knees come together when I do that. That's okay. My knees are going to come together. I'm going to round my spine and almost like I'm going to roll back. But what's preventing me from this roll back is the grip that I have of my wrist. So once you sort of create this rounded spine, you want to see if you can drop your head again. Notice again if your shoulders are coming up to your earlobes, you might be able to create a little bit of space. We're going to hold this. And what I'd like you to pay attention to now is the breath. Sort of seeing if you can pull the breath in along the stretch you've created along your back body. So you've sort of pulled your shoulder blades apart. That should be creating a little bit of a stretch. It might be a big stretch. And you're in some forward flexion right now. So pull your breath into your belly, sort of pulling it along the stretch, the space you've created through your back body. Allowing your belly to be soft. Allowing your head to be heavy. And that might be a lot of the work right now, just allowing your head to be heavy. Okay, let's stay for about 2 more breaths. Okay, now very, very slowly, we're going to roll all the way down, but you're going to keep this sort of flexion through your spine until you, in fact, all the way down on your mat. So you're going to have to use the strength of your front body. So just release whatever you've gripped onto, and you're very slowly going to try to roll down one segment of your spine at a time. So lots and lots of control. My chin is tucked, my chin is tucked, my chin is tucked. I'm rolling, rolling, rolling. Whew, and then eventually I'm all the way down. And I got about 3 cracks there on my way down. I don't know what's going on today. When you finally get down, just allow your pelvis to sort of reset, come into a neutral position. I like to bring my knees together, let my feet walk apart for a moment, allow everything to be heavy. Hands come to my belly. I can check in with my breath. I can physically check in with my breath because my hands can feel whether or not my diaphragm is moving. And I'm breathing with my belly, or again, I'm keeping my breath really high up in my chest. You want to move the breath with your belly. Okay, now very slowly, you're going to roll your head from one side of the mat to the other. So just very slowly, just take it off, roll your gaze over the left. Notice any restriction. Be mindful of that restriction. You don't want to move in toward pain. You want to keep a healthy distance from the pain. Sensation is okay, pain is not. Don't move into pain, just sort of move around it. And then turn your gaze over the right. You might have more range of motion on one side or the other. That is very, very normal. Keep moving. One side and then the other side. Okay, take one more round of these head turns. And then you're going to come back through center and you're going to grab your 2 tennis balls. And we're going to do a little myofascial release. This is one of my favorites because you're directly going to affect the muscles in and around where your neck attaches to your shoulders, so your levator scapula, your trapezius, and you're going to put some direct pressure on them and you're going to move things around. So all I want you to do is I want you to take your 2 tennis balls and you're going to bring them sort of onto the mat and down by your traps, okay? So it's gonna feel like a little strange. You're like, Argh. So imagine someone coming behind you and they're giving you like a creepy massage. They're like, oh, hey, hey, you know, where they put their fingers, that's where you wanna put the tennis balls, okay? So they're not moving anywhere because they're on the mat. If they're not, they would sort of fly out to either side. And then I want you to start with your hands just by either side of your hips. On your next breath in, you're gonna take your arms overhead. Now, depending on how your shoulders feel, you might feel a great deal of sensation right here. Now, just notice as we move along through this sequence, you're going to make some space. Now, this was the inhale. On the exhale, you're going to sweep your arms down either side of your body like you're making a snow angel. And then the inhale, you're going to take your arms overhead again. On the exhale, you're going to sweep, make your snow angel. Good, keep going. Move with your breath. See if you can lengthen your breaths. Maybe find a little pause at the top and the bottom of your breath. That I still feel a huge difference between one shoulder and the other shoulder. Now, it could be what side I slept on last night or slept wrong on last night. It could be something I did at the gym. I don't know. I'm just sort of trying to move through it. Let's take about 3 more rounds. I'm already starting to notice when I take my arms overhead, my thumb come a little bit closer to the ground. My thumb could even touch the ground on my right side, not so much my left side. I don't know what's going on over there. Okay, and then you're just gonna reach up. You're gonna take your little tennis balls, you're gonna move them over to the side. Okay. Bring your hands to your belly. Close your eyes. Take a couple breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. And then we're going to start to turn the head again very slowly. So just turning it to the left, turning it to the right. Once you get more comfortable with this movement, we're going to do some windshield wipers in the lower half of the body. So you're going to keep moving your head from side to side. You're just going to let your knees fall in the opposite direction of your gaze. So when I turn my gaze to the left, my knees fall to the right, and then the opposite on the other side. Now you can do this for as long as you like. You can repeat that sequence as much as you'd like through the day. And once you get used to it, you can lengthen certain segments of it. Don't feel like you have to stick to the time limit that I just gave you. This is just a suggestion based on the amount of time that I have right now in my day. And then hug your knees in. Take a couple circles, maybe some rocks and rolls. Come up to a seat very, 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 very slowly. I hope you have a little bit more freedom of movement, and I hope this helps.